I have a shot of rock and roll for you, my friend.
Let's hear it.
What about Judas Priest Firepower? What do you think of that
Ooh.
record? What do you think, specifically the artwork, because it's relevant to what I'm about to bring to the table?
I
Firepower. Do you know this record by Judas Priest?
Yes, I do, and I love it. I think it is a barn burner of a record. I was so proud of them when that record came out because I think it fits into their catalog nicely. It's definitely not a weak album. It's very strong. And I think the fact that they're doing an album of that caliber at this point in their career speaks volumes about the greatness of Judas Priest.
You,
I
you
love it.
just you just sold me the record. You literally just sold me the record. Now I have other friends who have put high praise all over it. I may have heard one or two songs somewhere at some point, but those the people that know me and how I react to new albums by old bands, I'm
Yeah.
slow because I'm shy. I'm gun shy about it, right?
Yeah.
And I hope that's okay. Uh, but it's just how I've always been. It's like once I find something that a band does that I'm in love with, it's really hard to for me to go, oh, think I heard one song and I turned it off. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanna, it doesn't. So anyway,
No,
um,
let me just interject if I may. I
please,
totally, totally, totally 100% understand that. And that is the beauty of Firepower. It sort of transcends that mental block that I have of not necessarily wanting to hear a new album by an old band because I'm worried that it's going to tarnish their legacy or whatever. But
yeah,
Firepower does none of that. It's aces all the way as far as I'm concerned. It was a massively pleasant surprise, and for me, I'll go out and say it, man. I think it's one of my favorite Judas Priest records.
wow.
It holds
Be-
up with all the good stuff from the classic.
because after Painkiller, it was just really hard
Understand?
to hear Nostradamus and even Angel of Retribution, because I feel like those records were missing the riff. And
Yeah,
what I mean by the riff is literally that. I want to hear that intro to Bloodstone.
yeah,
I want to hear the riff in Painkiller, in Screaming for Vengeance, even Breaking the Fucking Law. I
yeah,
want that's a riff. And
yeah,
I feel like on Nostradamus and maybe some moments in Angel of Retribution, I don't hear what I love about Judas Priest. Notice I'm not even worried about Rob Halford.
yeah,
I'll listen to anything that's got Rob Halford on it. But when I'm talking about Judas Priest, it's going to be easier for me to fall in love with it, not just because of Rob, but because of what Judas Priest is. Not only not all about Rob all the time, man. It's what Judas Priest is known for,
yeah,
is the riff. And when it's having a heart, when whatever it is just bouncing off of me because it's chord progressions and lack of that hooked riff, that thing that makes you, oh my God, Glenn Tipton, the riffs, the riff.
yeah.
Um,
I was
I, I
actually
need
I
to hear
was
that.
actually pleasantly surprised with Redeemer of Souls, the album before Firepower. So
Okay,
I was kind of going into Firepower with pretty
totally
high
missed that one.
expectations.
I missed
Yeah,
that one totally.
I was going into Firepower with pretty high expectations because to me, Redeemer of Souls hinted at the greatness that might follow because I thought that was a great album as well. But Firepower to me is it fits nicely in between somewhere in the whole Screaming for Vengeance, Defenders of the Faith era, and
Wow.
I'll stand by that. I mean, it's that good of a record. I
Yeah,
was
that's
so
pretty
happy.
powerful.
Yeah, it's a great album.
Yeah. So the reason that I wanted to kind of just, I mean, any chance I get, I'll talk about Judas Priest and Mr. Rob Halford. But
I know this. Yes.
my new record that's coming out here in a couple of months, from the time that we do this show here, is a few years ago. I was honored to be invited to a Headbangers Con Headbangers Convention in Portland, Oregon, where it was Eddie Ojeda and I was sandwiched between Ron Keel and Eddie Ojeda from Twisted Sister, and it was
Oh,
just such a good time.
yeah.
And David Ellison was there, and there were artists and vendors, and you can imagine there were School of Rock house band from Portland. The Portland School played a set at the end. There were a lot of people there from other bands that I think there was a guitar player there from a band called Suicide Silence, who was really an awesome guy, and he was doing like clinic stuff, and he was incredible. But I I don't remember the guy's name, and I don't own any Suicide Silence, but I feel terrible about that. But I feel like they're one of the newer metal bands that kind of like went
Oh,
right
yeah.
by me, kind of thing. But I had the pleasure of meeting Claudio Bergamin. And Claudio Bergamin is the guy that painted the front cover art for Judas Priest Firepower.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And this is his art pre Firepower font or Judas Priest logo.
Yeah.
And I guess I can scan this and send it to Jared.
Yeah.
I might need to get some permissions from Claudio, but that's okay. He's now on speed dial.
Yeah.
Here is, he has a website, claudiobergamin.com. I will even hold that up so you can see the spelling. Claudio. His name has Dio in it. claudiobergamin.com. And all of his art is for sale, by the way. He does a lot of UFO and Bigfoot type art because he's into that kind of stuff as well as science fiction. He does artwork for a lot of bands and a lot of people, and he is amazing. And he's tight with Richie Faulkner of Judas Priest, and he does a lot of art for Richie. And so that's kind of a cool that they have that relationship via the Priest. But
Yeah.
he is doing Claudio. I reached out to him recently. My record that's coming out here in a couple of months by the project Cassius King that has gotten some lip service here on Talk Louder. Claudio's doing the artwork for the cover for that. And Claudio's also, a lot of people don't realize this because they think he's an illustrator. He's not only an illustrator, he's a photographer as well. And a lot of his ideas for his illustrations come from his photography. He'll hire models, he'll set up, I don't know if he set up a fucking H-bomb for this and threw firecrackers into it to get this idea for Firepower or not. Who knows? But he's super nice guy and lives in the Bay Area. And anyway, he's doing the artwork, and I just wanted to talk. It gave me a good excuse to plug him a little bit, talk about Cassius King for just that minute, and also ask you about Firepower. This has been the Shot of Rock and Roll on the Talk Louder podcast.